The gentleman from New York, Mr. Mondaire Jones, is now recognized.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and I join the chorus of my colleagues in celebrating your tremendous service in this body over the past several decades and your just stalwart championing our community, the LGBTQ plus community. So thank you for that. As I said on the floor of the House during debate on the Equality Act, to grow up poor, black, and gay is to not see yourself anywhere. It is also to feel completely unseen as so many people around you invalidate your very existence. Growing up, like many people in this room, I suspect, I watched as mostly as straight politicians, many of them white, many of them men, used my basic human rights as a political football to further their careers. And now, as the first openly gay black member in this body, I'm even more familiar with the vile anti-LGBTQ rhetoric that terrorizes our community and that somehow is even more harmful when it's aimed at queer people of color. Let me also just say, to amplify what Representative Porter had discussed previously, that I and people on my team have also reported many of these Twitter accounts that have hurled explicitly homophobic insults at me in particular, and have received emails stating that they are not somehow in violation of Twitter's purported standards. And so clearly there's something amiss at Twitter, but I think many of us have known that now for the past few months, given the leadership changes. Many of us are scared for our lives, and rightfully so. LGBTQ Americans know that gay bars and clubs are sanctuaries for our community to gather without fear of being judged simply for being who they are. For many, these spaces become second homes where we can experience the full freedom to be ourselves. Such was the case for me. In my first year of law school, when I was still closeted, the gay bars of New York City were the only place I could be my authentic self, and those spaces helped me to come out and to be the man, the congressman that I am today. I cannot imagine my journey to self-acceptance and understanding without these sanctuaries, which are now under assault. The horrific mass shootings at Pulse nightclub and Club Q create fear among LGBTQ Americans that gay bars and clubs, these places of refuge for members of our community, are no longer safe. These attacks, alongside other acts of violence against our community, and the growing chorus of hate and disinformation against LGBTQ people tell us that over the past few years, this country has become a more dangerous place for us to live, unfortunately. Even those who simply provide services essential to the mental and physical well-being of members of our community are under attack. Earlier this month, a doctor affiliated with the National LGBTQIA+ Health Education Center in Boston faced credible death threats for their role in providing gender-affirming care to transgender youth. The following day, the First Unitarian Universalist Church in Columbus, Ohio, was forced to cancel a family-friendly, holiday-themed, drag queen storytelling event after far-right extremists from the Proud Boys and the Patriot Front showed up to protest, armed with AR-15s, dressed in military gear, chanting far-right slogans, and performing Nazi salutes. When leaders across the country, including sitting members of Congress, are peddling age-old hateful and false narratives about grooming and pedophilia, these are the types of people who show up in response. A recent Human Rights Campaign report found that as Florida state government enacted its discriminatory Don't Say Gay law, anti-LGBTQ misinformation surged by over 400% on social media platforms. And worse, instead of condemning this deadly wave of misinformation and hate, members of this body have added fuel to the fire. In October of this year, Representative Mike Johnson of Louisiana introduced his own Don't Say Gay bill to amplify this hateful policy on a national scale, and dozens of members of this body co-sponsored that legislation. Shame on them. If enacted, Mr. Johnson's heinous bill would, among other things, prohibit federally funded schools from providing sex education or library books to children under 10 that include LGBTQ topics. In doing so, his bill would send a message to LGBTQ children in the most vulnerable stage of their lives that they are an other, whose very existence society refuses to recognize. It is hard, in closing, to listen to the stories of Club Q and post-nightclub survivors and not be in awe of their bravery and resilience. And so I thank you for your courage. I'm furious that our community is forced to live again and again with this pain, but I'm optimistic about the future of this country with your leadership and with people of
Thank
good
you, and the
conscience in
gentleman's
this
time
body.
has expired,
I
and
yield back, Madam
votes
Chair.
have been called. So I now recognize